This is Valley News Live at noon.
The leaked Supreme Court draft showing the justices could be on the verge of overturning Roe v. Wade has galvanized activists on both sides of the issue and looks to be one of the most defining issues in this year's elections. Democrats say they're already working on legislation to make Roe v. Wade into federal law nationwide. With the filibuster in place, there is little to no chance that would pass in the 50-50 Senate. This week's leaked draft opinion has already begun to galvanize voters on both sides, with midterm primaries already underway.
I think a woman has the right to control her own body. I think that precedent matters.
It's a complicated issue, and when you turn things to the states' rights, I'm a strong believer in states' rights, so let them decide as they choose.
Both anti-abortion rights and pro-abortion rights advocates are also preparing for the fight to move to individual states. The final ruling from the court is expected to be issued well before the end of the court's term in late June or early July. It could even come this month. North Dakota has been set up for years to outlaw abortions if the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade. A 2007 state law makes performing an abortion a felony unless necessary to prevent the woman's death or in cases of rape or incest. Minnesota could become a destination for abortion services for women from other states. Abortion would remain legal, at least for now, under a 1995 Minnesota Supreme Court ruling. Minnesota has significant restrictions in place, including a 24-hour waiting period and a requirement that minors notify both parents before they can get an abortion. But a lawsuit by abortion rights advocates that expect to go into trial next month seeks to remove those barriers. New at noon, one man is facing several charges following a police standoff in Otter Tail County. Court documents say on Sunday, authorities were called to a home in Richville for a report of domestic assault. Records say Bernard Stash was beating a woman in the home, but she was eventually able to get out safely and run to police. At one point, authorities had to call in a bearcat to deal with the situation. Documents say Stash went outside the house with a gun and fired it several times. Eventually, he was arrested and is now charged with assault, domestic assault, and terroristic threats. The Pembina County Water Resource District is continuing to work with the North Dakota National Guard to stabilize erosion on the Bourbonnais Dam. Officials say erosion has stabilized overnight in that area that was sandbagged yesterday. So let's go to Summer Schnallbach with a quick look at the weather and current river levels. Summer?
That's right. Thank you so much, JC. The Valley flood alert does continue. Here's a look in on the Red River from the East Grand Forks side as it continues to recede. So good news for several across the valley, but here's the latest. Moderate and major overland flooding continues, especially throughout the central and northern parts of our region. The Minnesota tributaries have, for the most part, all crested aside from the Buffalo River at Dilworth. North Dakota tributaries, especially along the Cheyenne and Pembina, those rivers are still rising. Thankfully, we have dry weather for a few more days. Here's a view of Cavalier. We showed this just in the last story. Oh, unfortunately, there were some trucks here, some flatbed trucks with those 1-ton sandbags, and there was a helicopter overhead picking up those sandbags and heading east. This is to the west of Cavalier, just upstream from the Bourbonnais Dam. Looks like they have cleared that area, of course, just in time before we go on air. There's that Bourbonnais Dam, eventually into the Herzog Dam, then the Renwick Dam. So there are multiple smaller dams in this area, but latest reports say they are holding up fairly well. And we can see proof of that just downstream, the Tongue River at Accra. This gauge continues to show those water levels going down. Oslo, Red River, Drayton, Pembina, all still in major flood stage, and the Pembina River at Nitchie still in major flood stage as well. We have dry conditions continuing for today and warmer conditions continuing today. All good news. JC, coming up, I'll have your 7-day planner, how long this warmth sticks around, and a look at the weekend rain chances as well.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Summer. We have new information on a motorcyclist who was thrown during a crash. Grand Forks police identified him as 20-year-old Blake Kirpan. Police also say 20-year-old Adam Hansen was turning off of North Columbia Road last night when Kirpan came from the other direction and hit the car on the passenger side. Kirpan was taken to the local hospital with non-life-threatening injuries and was cited for care required. Hansen was not hurt, but he was cited for failing to yield at a controlled intersection. A woman is in jail for drunk driving after crashing into a farm field full of water north of Fargo. The Cass County Sheriff's Office says 64-year-old Lori Nelson of Harwood had to be helped from her car last night on the west side of Harwood. She was booked into jail on DUI charges. First responders rushed to the Mankato Regional Airport after a plane crashed while landing on the runway. Mankato public safety officials say the pilot, who was the only one in the plane, was trying to land the plane before 8 last night. The pilot was reportedly injured, but the extent of those injuries is unknown at this time. The FAA is investigating that crash. Friends and family gathered for a prayer service for a missing Beulah, North Dakota teenager Tyler Schaefer. His picture is on your screen. He was last seen around 3 Sunday morning walking near a church in Beulah. Anyone with information on Schaefer's disappearance should contact police. Minnesota's top federal attorney says he's ordering his entire staff to work on violent crime cases. He promised all adult carjackers will do federal time and prosecutors will devote more resources to enforcing gun purchasing laws. The announcement comes as the Twin Cities are facing a violent crime wave. Minneapolis saw 97 homicides last year, the most since 1995. St. Paul recorded 38 homicides in 2021, breaking the city's record of 34 set in 1992. Wear your face masks on planes, trains, and buses. That's according to the CDC recommendation, despite a court ruling 2 weeks ago that struck down a national mask mandate on public transit. The Justice Department is appealing that ruling. Coming up at noon, house values are on the rise, which means home equity is too. We'll explain how 2 major financing options could help. But next, we have a much-needed warm-up over the next few days. Summer Schnellbach is in tracking our next chance of rain.